Great to have you all, our viewers in Cameroon and around the world, talking about the importance of tradition in a human society. Marcus Garvey said, a people without the knowledge of the past, the history, their origin, and their culture is like a tree without roots. Many traditional rulers are embracing partisan politics and in some cases eroding the foundation of traditional values on which they stand. Does this make such traditional rulers assets or liabilities to their communities? That will be our focus on Press Hour today. We're also going to talk about another prophetic subject that all prophecies have failed, from the advent of multi-party politics in Cameroon in the 1990s to this day as we speak. Repeated scary predictions by some political and economic analysts have said that Cameroon would not even pay the salaries of its workers. In each of these cases, the government comes out stronger. Is it hard work or just a stroke of luck? You see how interesting we're going to make you feel at home today. If you are just tuning in, this is Press Hour, and to discuss these topics, we're going to bring to you a very rich panel, beginning with the political analyst, Dr. Callistus Abang, political scientist. He has so many other qualities that we're going to discover in this program. Welcome to the program.
It's a pleasure, sir.
Next to you, we have Albert Njie Mbonde, our own Albert Njie Mbonde, CRTV. He's the chief of the political service, CRTV Radio. Welcome, Albert.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, next to me, to my left, we have, we popularly call you Chief Moi. Your cap says it all. This is Patrick Moi. He is a desk editor, The Guardian newspaper. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kilian, and it's my pleasure to be part of the program once more.
Are you a chief or you just does a joke because that's how you are popularly known?
We'll talk about that off air.
Okay, we have Elias Ngalambe. He is the publisher of Echo Outlook newspaper. You know, welcome to the program.
Yep.
You are a household name on Press Hour. First things first, the week in review in our regular slot. Press review done for us by Yoti Lesonge.
News on the impact of the coronavirus on the country's economy as well as on the continent animated the papers this week. An article in the Guardian Post reveals that close to 22 billion CFA francs has been spent within 5 months in combating the disease in Cameroon. As a result, the CEMAC Interstate Committee has outlined measures to tackle post-COVID-19 challenges in the zone where economic indicators show that the gross domestic product will witness a drop of 4 to 6% by the end of the year. Another story which cut across the papers this week is the African Caucus of IMF, World Bank governors, where the participants dwelled on protecting Africa's human capital in the face of COVID-19, saving lives, preserving well-being, and safeguarding productivity and jobs. This to set a vision and ambition for Africa to build and strengthen resilience to future shocks as the region recovers. Amidst the crisis, there's a hike in Cameroon's revenue as the Guardian Post headlines. Customs Department, untold story of Minfe's directive and ever-increasing revenue collection. Based on the article by Christian Gar Christian, the annual revenue has skyrocketed from 678.1 billion CFA francs in 2015 to more than 840 billion in 2019, despite the Boko Haram insurgency in the far north and crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motazé is thus described as the hidden hand behind Cameroon's ever-increasing customs and tax revenue collection, a fact strengthened by the congratulations of Bretton Woods officials to Cameroon for making remarkable improvement in mobilizing internally generated income. In-depth news, on its part, put a spotlight on Cameroon's Treasury Department as the Director General Sylvester Mo rolls out user-friendly reforms and addresses the COVID-19 impact on the state budget, reassuring that Cameroon has the capacity to raise money from the financial markets and pay back its debts without defaulting. Meanwhile, Eco Outlook zooms in on Minfi as he prepares actors for realistic 2021 state budget. As traditional rulers prepare to play their role in decision-making ahead of the decentralization process, indigents of Ngoketunjia take on the territorial administration bus in an article the Herald Tribune captioned, Ngoketunjia, How Minat was misled to cancel the recognition of Mokong Babungo chiefdom. While the indigents are soliciting for the third-class chiefdom to be reinstated, the Horizon reports on Limbe youth who confess to have been hired to sabotage their traditional ruler. The youth of Mevio village in Limbe, Fako division of the southwest region of Cameroon, say they were each given 5,000 CFA francs to stage a public protest against their traditional ruler, Chief Henry Fonderson. Meanwhile, the Bafors are looking to welcome a new administration with a new blood at the helm. The Guardian Post has details of the new paramount ruler to Meme administration, Fon Mukete IV Ekoko, who takes over from his father, Fon Victor Mukete, who abdicated his throne after upholding the culture and tradition of the Bafor people for over 50 years. These and stories on the smooth start of the GCE Advanced and Ordinary Levels examinations, as well as that on the BAPC candidate in the South region who gave birth to twins in the exam hall, kept the print media busy all week.
Very much, Yoti Kalili Songe, for that press review there. You've reminded us of what the papers fed on the week just ended. Ladies and gentlemen watching us, gentlemen on the panel, we started by talking about the fact that if you take a head count of traditional rulers who are already in politics in Cameroon, you may lose your count. Have we gone? And there is the possibility with the regional elections that come up anytime, we even thought it was going to come up last year, anytime from now, depending on the head of state who is going to decree for that to happen, we will have more traditional rulers taking partisan directions. And it's already becoming a problem. We want to know how they stand, where they stand in politics, and how they keep their positions as custodians of the tradition. Dr. Callistus, you are a political scientist. Can we, from the onset, have a situation of the traditional rulers in politics in Cameroon? We have them in the Senate, we have them in the National Assembly, we have them in other positions, and we'll have them again constitutionally in regional councils.
Thanks immensely, Mr. Nda. It is really a burning issue because when we sprang back to the 1977 law on the traditional institutions, this law established traditional rulers as auxiliaries of the administration. And by virtue of that, they were to take care of local governance, take care of insecurity, collaborate with this administration in matters concerning land tenure and many others. But to make you know that when we look at the pre-colonial period, the colonial period and the post-colonial period, and even at the dawn of independence, we had a different category of traditional rulers. Most of them have never gone to school, but they were so sticked to their traditional institutions. And you know, in those days, just a grisly disagreement at home with your spouse, you will realize the spouse's next destination is at the palace, because she knew that only the traditional ruler was superior to quench that tension.
They had absolute authority.
Of course. But now, unfortunately, after independence, we witness a different breed of traditional rulers, most of which are highly learned. And, you know, it is often said that the more educated one becomes, the more ambitious the person also tends to be. So we realize that this new breed of traditional rulers had to embrace the political concept that power hunts power, meaning that the more power you have, you want to grab another power. And then when you look at the Cameroon institutions, you will realize that of late, the Cameroon government had included many traditional rulers in the various sectors of the administration, and then making them to an extent to erode from their normal duties. May I quote the example of Napa Bahongo, the paramount leader of the Muse clan in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. These are people who exert much power without any political lineage. Reason why any militant of any party can pay a visit to him for wisdom, to give them advices.
We are going to come to that. We just want to have, first of all, the situation of traditional rulers in politics in Cameroon. We have so many of them in the Senate. We have so many of them in other positions appointed. Do we have that?
Yeah. I was just coming to that because I just wanted to give a global view so that we understand that, according to the views of Evan Pritchard, a renowned socioanthropologist, the centralization of traditional institutions in Africa gave them a lot of admiration because they saw the type of organigram surrounding them. You go to the Bamoun, you will see how these institutions are set up. Now you come to the administration of Cameroon, from the president of the National Assembly, who is the Elamido Mada. You go to the president of Economic and Social Council, you go to the Senate, and the worst of all is at the Senate because apparently every region is represented. The Northwest has two traditional rulers, the West 2 traditional rulers, the Southwest 3, the Center. Brief, we are having more than 20 traditional rulers in the Senate. We go deeper into the administration. We even see university done. Even the acting president of the National Council of Traditional Rulers, Professor Chala, was the vice rector of University of Yaoundé 1 and Yaoundé 2. These are people who hold administrative functions, but continue maintaining their titles as traditional ruler. To an extent, at this juncture, we are going to look at it on both sides because the administrative, the traditional setup of the Grand North will not be the same like the one. We're going to discuss that. It's very interesting points you are raising. We'll discuss that as we get deeper into the program. Albert Njembonde, you are close to what we can call a political scientist. You head the political services here at radio, and you do some of the analysis that are directly linked to this. When you look at, he raised the point before independence, after independence, and that it is actually being eroded. So what reading do you give of traditional rulers as they get more into politics?
Well, we live in a world and a society that evolves. The only common denominator of, in my opinion, of the different eras has to do with issues that have to do with the perception that the public has of traditional rulers, and also what perception the administration or the governing class makes of traditional rulers. You want to understand that even before independence, we used to have traditional rulers giving the authority, for instance, collection of taxes within their jurisdiction. You remember in the Federal Constitution, I know Section 40 actually talks about the creation of the House of Chiefs. After independence, we also have, since 1976, a decree that has to do with the management of national lands, where traditional rulers have a very, very vital role to play, because at the end of the day, you discover that when you are talking about power, you are talking about a territorial space, you are talking, so lands become crucial. To also come to some of the aspects Doc was raising a while ago, you also discover that the governing class, it is to the advantage to have traditional rulers as what we call auxiliaries of the administration. It's just like the church. Any power or regime that is in consonance with the church or traditional institutions has slips, has a possibility of staying longer in power. And I think that that is where you begin to see that sometimes there will obviously be friction between the ruling class and the grassroots that wants more local governance that they could have had with traditional rulers. When traditional rulers start going towards out of the grassroots, they feel that there is more distance. And I think that that is where the spirit of the law on regional and local authorities comes to play, to make sure that even if traditional rulers, like we say, they are in parliament, they are in government and so on, they don't lose sight of their responsibility in grassroots development.
Albert, I stay with you. You made mention of their relationship with the land. And it is a secret to nobody that some of these traditional rulers are giving out this land as they go close to the administration, to the detriment of the people, because their base is the people. Don't you think that it's more of a problem to their communities when they get to politics?
It is not only a problem to their communities, but also a problem to social cohesion. As I speak to you, I hail from Fako Division, where I wouldn't hide or lie to you that it's one of the biggest problems that I, as a subject belonging to a chiefdom, I have. You know, because sometimes, okay, there is a spirit behind the law of July 15, 1977 that Doc was raising a while ago, that talks about the creation and organization of chiefdoms in Cameroon. During the review, you saw the problem in Babongo. People need to understand. That's why we're talking about the public perception. People need to understand. How do you create a village in a village with people who have stayed in those villages for 50, 60, 100 years, and you really must be able to be convincing enough to tell them probably there was a village here that went extinct, and now descendants of those villages want that village recreated, and so on and so forth. It's never an easy issue. And the problem is, I know Cosmas Cheka, I know Francis Nyamjo. We have lots of university dons who have done studies on issues relating to chiefdoms. And the bottom line of it all is that subjects feel more comfortable with their traditional authorities who don't come and go than with DOs, ex-DOs, and governors who will, in that confusion, will reap their own. Lots of them have lands in the areas where they administer, which is very much against the laws of the land. So you discover that it's a difficult
it's a problem.
issue to handle.
Yes, Patrick, you are differently. When we look at the way you're dressed, we can identify you that you are from the grass field. And when we talk about traditional rulers, the kingdoms, the chiefdoms, they are really sacred, to use this word, in that part of the country. Don't you see that with these traditional rulers getting closer to politics in their numbers, it's going to be a big problem, keeping that cohesion?
That's true. Yes, in all honesty, it's a growing phenomenon. I think we're having more and more traditional rulers in active politics. We're not saying that they shouldn't take part in politics. We understand that all of us are political beings. But taking part in active politics has badly affected the image of most of our traditional rulers, especially to the traditional rulers who are from the grassroots area, where you know how attached the people are to the throne, you know, the respect and the aura that most of those traditional rulers they have around there has virtually been disappearing because of little involvement, meddling into politics, especially active politics. I ask you a simple question. You are from the grassroots as well. Imagine you getting into a political tussle. For example, you're a candidate and you're a traditional ruler. Your phone is a candidate.
Yes, answer that question.
Will you be able to celebrate your victory that you have defeated a phone, for example?
What's the answer? What's the answer?
Obviously, there's no person, especially from the grassroots, who will find it comfortable defeating a traditional ruler
In politics?
In politics.
So it becomes a problem?
Yes, to challenge the throne. You have virtually desecrated the land by trying to challenge the traditional ruler. It's a taboo. When we see the phone coming from the opposite side, except for some of us who are very close to the throne as well, it's not even possible walking on the same lane with the traditional ruler.
In other words,
but because of politics, people now rub shoulders with them. The respect is no longer there. I tell you I narrate a simple story which I lived in 2013 while covering the twin elections then in Donga and Mantum. There was a traditional ruler who came public to even threaten the villagers that whoever votes the opposition party will be banished from the village. And that same phone came out during the election day and was actually sending the last threats, I should say, that as you are going to the polling station, if you vote the opposition party, you are going to be banished from this village. So imagine that. How is it possible that the villagers will be able to vote out of their own political will?
Like Albert
because
said, it's a threat to social cohesion.
It is.
Now let me ask you this question. You also come from the grass field, and I know it extends to all the other chiefdoms, fondoms, kingdoms in other parts of our country, because it depends on where you come from, and then the appellation is different. Right. You know, before, traditional rulers, they used to sit there, sacred, and people, they will not go hungry. People will bring money, they will bring wood, they will bring this, and they did not need to go out. Today, nobody cares about what's happening to these traditional rulers if they sit in their palaces. No, Don't you think that also is a reason for them to go out?
I want to disagree with you to say that it's an overstatement to say that nobody cares again. I think we still have chiefdoms we call them fondoms in the Northwest that are well organized, where everything that concerns the fond is done by the community, even where he lives. The palace is never constructed by the chief. I only left the Northwest to the Southwest to discover that the chief will construct a house for himself or buy a car for himself. A fund in the Northwest is entitled to all of that because what belongs to the village belongs to him. He incarnates the institutions of the village. So they are still well organized. For those that have been able to maintain their integrity, still command the respect that we know them to have.
That is relative.
Especially for those that still have some level of integrity.
That is relative.
And we know most of them.
That is relative. We are not talking about most of them, because if one person is suffering, then it's a problem.
That's right.
We are saying, are you convinced that a chief, a traditional ruler, could still sit even in those organized societies and depend on people, make him a beggar?
No, it's very much possible, Killian. It's very much possible. I don't think that traditional rulers, the impression you are trying to give is as though they are getting into politics for survival purpose. I don't think that is the main intention behind their involvement in politics. It's more about power. Like Doctor said, you know, once you are given power, you want to have more. It is always that insatiable.
It's an element, an ingredient of power.
Yes, it's an ingredient. It's involved, but I think it's just the quest for power that pushes some of them into. And what we have observed over the years, especially since the President of the Republic decided to put traditional rulers on a monthly stipend, we have discovered that majority of them are virtually all CPDM. Anybody who wants to belong to the opposition is either threatened that you'll be dethroned. All my life, I've never known that the administration can dethrone a chief.
Well, it's not everywhere.
It's only now that we're getting news of the fact that an SDO or a DO is threatening a traditional.
Is that not an overstatement, Elias? Because we know that in a place where succession is done from the lineage of the chief and the family, the internal family, the fond or the chief cannot be dethroned. Maybe that is an overstatement, because it doesn't apply in all parts of Cameroon where some chiefs are appointed.
Well, it may be an overstatement, but those are things that are happening. We live that on a daily basis in the field, you know, and it is the way the administration has been given an overriding power over tradition. Because I used to say that traditional rulers, they have their rights to go into politics. Nobody refuses them that, but it depends the way they approach it. If they are diplomatic in their approach to politics, I don't think they will come into conflict with their subjects. If you look at the way politics operate, I mean, the traditional rulers in the north operate, there's a clear line between their traditional and cultural responsibility and their political ambition, and they have been able to keep their legitimacy culturally and socially with their people, unlike their peers in the other regions, who have completely given in, and they are teleguided by the administration, and this has put them in conflict with their subjects, and this is a big problem.
Is there a way they could maintain their traditional authority and still be in politics? Because we know it's a right to be in politics.
Of course, there is a way.
What can they do?
Differentiate their political ambition and their cultural and social responsibilities. There should be a very clear line.
Doctor, you're a political scientist. How can we come out of this problem, which is becoming a serious problem of cohesion in our different communities, social cohesion?
Yeah, I just wish to first corroborate with what Mr. Ngalame was saying, that we need to have a distinction between their administrative functions and that of their traditional institutions. Because, you know, in my village where I come from, there are some traditional rites that are supposed to be performed, but they have been suspended because the Paramount Fund is away for so many years. That is to tell you that the traditional ruler is needed at a particular point in time in the village, no matter which position he occupies in the Yaoundé administration. Okay. Apart from that, the traditional ruler, bearing in mind the responsibility surrounding him, was not even supposed to take part in partisan politics. Because we know a few weeks ago, an SDO in the West region wrote a letter to a traditional ruler, a paramount, respectable ruler of that caliber, warning him of organizing a meeting in his palace without prior authorization. And to corroborate what Mr. Patrick said earlier, that most traditional rulers belong to the ruling party. Statistics have proven that about 80% of our traditional rulers belong to the ruling party. 90. Yeah, and only about 5% belong to the opposition, while the others remain neutral. And there is the tendency for crushing them or imposing them where they have to belong if they want government attention. And this is greatly affecting them, because now, like he mentioned a case that he belongs to a different political party, and the traditional ruler is also contesting. How are we going to measure that? We will realize, for instance, like I said in my preliminary remarks, that in the village in those days, when there was a problem, the next destination was to go to the palace, where we knew that we would have a solution. But now, with the fact that our traditional rulers have been engulfed in this political agitation, and I don't think I will be teaching you that there's a traditional ruler who died because even before he died, he had killed a politician, and he went to the prison because he wanted a politician to belong, to accept his political ideology, deviating from the traditional responsibility he has. That is very pathetic. So we need to have a great demarcation between those two, because it is very difficult to manage. But Mr. Ngari get an example that in the north is very different, in the Grand North, very different from us in the grassfield.
I have been there, and I know how respectable those traditional rulers there are.
Yeah, and they
mostly called
and they function on the principle of Baba said, in quote.
What does that mean?
Baba said means that they are doing what their traditional ruler said. That is why when you go to a lamida like that of Ray Buba, look at the results for any elections we have in Cameroon. When Baba said, everybody, you vote at this time, this is a party you are going to vote. Everybody just follow, because they believe that their traditional ruler incarnates a godly given privilege or a godly given representation, because they consider that their traditional ruler is God representative on earth, that if they disrespect him, that is disrespecting God.
Yes, authority comes from God. That is even said in the Bible. But the authority must be used, also come from the Bible, the right way, and the interest of the people. Albert,
that brings me to react to what the other panelists said before, which brings to mind the aspect of making a distinction between party politics and politics. Because to me, striving towards social cohesion, striving towards grassroots development is politics. And I think that we have quite some traditional rulers who have been doing that very, very well, irrespective of their affiliation to political parties or not. But I also wanted to say politics or partisan politics is a matter of choice. So it is possible to do politics and still get the attention of the elite.
How do you do that?
To still remain a rallying force in the village.
What should you put in your way of doing politics that should make you stay a traditional ruler, do politics, and be respected?
One of the advantages we have is that just as a lot of subjects go to school, unlike before, that's how traditional rulers are also going to school. So lots of them have become enlightened, and people want to see enlightened leadership. And you have quite a number of them who may not have the resources financially, but have the ideas, have the contacts. That brings us back to what is the public conception towards their leadership. If your leadership is the one that is unifying, that is visionary, it will in turn have the respect. The truth about it is lots of them have gone, like Patrick was saying, it's using the chieftaincy institution as an instrument of repression. Once it is not that way, it becomes an instrument of development. The other issue I wanted to raise is the issue of vis-a-vis traditional rulers and education. The perception they have of the administration. Because I continue to say the administration is a problem. If you don't know these laws, if you don't know some of the legal instruments governing the chieftaincy institution, you begin to see the administration as your boss instead of as collaboration.
Yes, being just an auxiliary, which doesn't make you a subject.
Exactly.
Now, I bet you, like Dr. Callisto said, tradition is values that are handed down. That's what we know it, and they are kept the way they are. And it's conflicting with what we call today modernity, which is an evolution of ideas that flow, like the education you're talking about. Now we're getting out of this topic. How can we, those are suggestions, make traditional rulers not to be liabilities, but to be assets to their people? Because their base is their people. They should not erode their base for politics. I should go this way.
Yes, I think in passing we have already made those suggestions that it's advisable that traditional rulers would stay clear of politics. To me, partisan politics, because our cultural and
partisan politics belong to a political party is already partisan.
That's what I'm saying. They can go out there vote, but I'm saying that for a traditional ruler, to me, it's appalling to find a traditional ruler going out there to campaign to beg for votes, in quote, from his subjects. So no. Yes. Let me just develop. I'm sure we came here because of this topic.
Go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that to me, I would prefer that traditional rulers should keep a distance from partisan politics, or what we call active politics. That's vying for positions. That's to be voted. But they can vote. Why not? It is their civil right. But we have discovered that over the years, those that have really been too much involved in active politics go back to their villages and see the tension that is boiling there. Because, like the doctor said, one of the fundamental rules of a traditional ruler is to, first of all, ensure internal peace and development of his or her village.
Thank you.
So now imagine a traditional ruler confronted with the situation of settling dispute. Because normally it is a responsibility to settle internal dispute. Imagine you have a dispute with somebody who is coming from the opposing party where you don't belong. You will certainly be biased.
Well, Elias, please. He is still raising the problem. We cannot, the text show that traditional rulers, the reality shows that the traditional rulers are in politics and will have more of them. Now, our suggestion here, we want to know is, how can they do that? The politics, because they must do, the texts have already made it clear. How can they do politics and still maintain their authority and be assets to their communities?
Yes, they can do this. The traditional ruler of Fumban is doing that very, very, very well. When it comes to development, the people rally around him. And when it comes to politics, he respects the political choice of his people. So he avoids that political clash and that conflict at all levels.
It hasn't cancelled the fact that some will tell you that there are two Fumbans.
But we had the situation of we had the national
because of politics.
We had the National Traditional Council that was created in 2010, and that gave hope that at some point traditional rulers are coming together as a network to fight to change things, to fight for the development of the population. But in 2011. We saw them raising their voices in support of one political party.
Of support.
And this some sort of watered down the hope and ambition that people were looking forward to.
Yes. I think before we close the topic, I just wanted to say that if you go by the spirit of the Electoral Code and the Code on Regional and Local Authorities, if traditional rulers understand it well, I think that the legislator is giving them a possible way out of partisan politics, especially in the Northwest and Southwest, with the re-establishment of the House of Chiefs, with 20 elected amongst them to represent them. Because I know that there are some who have been complaining that on issues that are pertaining to the grassroots, like national development, they have been sidelined. So this House of Chiefs will give them a possibility to also make major recommendations or also be decision makers as far as statehood is concerned.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. If you are just joining us, you're watching Press R on CRTV. If you are stepping away, we want you to stay. And you have your handset with you. You can connect to CRTV web, Facebook, and you will watch this program live. You can also send in your contributions on this program, and we're going to read the contributions towards the end of the program by 1:30. We're going to take you into our next topic. This week, so many things happen in Yaoundé. Economic, you had the summit of heads of state of ECAS. You also had the governors who met here and discussed economic way out for some continental, regional issues. And we have not forgotten that at one point, people say, this government is already bankrupt, cannot more raise funds, they cannot more pay salaries. But Cameroon has always come up with treasury bonds. Sometimes they come with toll gates, sometimes they come with loans from bank to come out of this. Is it by luck or it is hard work? That's what we're going to discuss after this. But before that, watch this joint report by Christian Chiatam and Charles Ibune.
The 17th Summit of Heads of State and Heads of Government of the Economic Community of Central African States marks a major milestone in the modernization of the organ, as important decisions have been taken. ECA's heads of state have decided that the new revised treaty of the organization will be implemented as from the 28th of August 2020. 8 out of the 11 member states have already ratified the revised treaty. The regional body has also set up a new bureau to manage the ECA's commission. The chairperson, Gilberto da Piedade Verissimo, is from Angola. The 2020 African Caucus of Governors of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund has held at a time when African economies have been devastated by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Rising budget deficits, deteriorating external positions, and accelerating public debt are all tangible microeconomic manifestations of this pandemic.
The caucus has been a platform for African economies to seek common strategies which the continent can use to absorb the shock caused by the pandemic and create conditions which can lead to more resilient economies in future.
At least 250 people were connected online for this year's Africa Governors Group meeting for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund organized and held in Cameroon.
To come out with a very strong memorandum that is going to be presented to the two authorities of the World Bank Group as well as IMF General Managing Director.
The human capital development at a time when plus 1 million people are already infected by the coronavirus on the continent was focused.
It's about macro and fiscal consolidation and management in a moment like this one with huge constraints in terms of mobilizing resources where expenditures are going up.
The outcome of the gathering will be used in the next annual meetings of the Bretton Woods institutions.
You're welcome back. Patrick, let me begin with you. Have you, at one point in Cameroon, I want to think of from 1990 when we had the multi-party politics and places were shaken. At one point got scared that money is finished in Cameroon, that is all finished.
Not quite. It's quite funny anyway. But I think government has always assured Cameroonians that we have some reasonable deposits at the level of the
government.
The central
I'm asking whether you have ever been convinced, because we have heard that once and again that this month like this we're going to see
we have heard those stories repeatedly. I think we have heard it repeatedly. But
you have never been scared?
No. Why will I be scared in a country where I think we have the best when it comes to resources? We have everything that can make us really, really rich. Sometimes I feel very uncomfortable when the people in higher offices tend to limit their level of comparison, talking about Cameroon and other countries, and they limit themselves within the sub-region, that's CEMAC. I ask myself, when you look at the other countries in CEMAC, should we really be comparing with them?
Elias, we are talking about some reports, some analysis, some predictions that are done by economists, renowned economists, saying that it is going to be bad. We are not just talking about political pronouncements. Have you ever been scared at one point that it's finished?
Of course, as someone who is sensitive to his environment, when you read such news, you have every reason to be scared. But I think that the government is doing its best. The government is also aware of the challenges and the dangers, and they are taking precautionary measures. But to say that everything is good about the economy, it will be an overstatement in reality, because papers might have it that we have a 4.1% growth rate. That is true, but that is a macro picture. How does that translate to the day-to-day lives of the average Cameroonian? That is where the Cameroonians have a worry.
Yes, we just watched the PM. He himself acknowledged, like the governors that met African governors within the framework of the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund. That one is okay. They acknowledge it at high levels. We are not more at the level of saying that it is there. Yes, it's a problem. We want to know, Albert, sincerely, when you hear, because I know you have heard once you're concerned about your country, when you hear that things are not going to be fine, what comes to your mind?
Well, there are indicators that don't lie. He talked about the macro and the micro level. Some indicators don't lie. It's true that the debt situation of the country isn't the best. I think that the economy minister of today, while in finance, had already raised that concern. We've done a lot of, taking a lot of loans that have to do with what we call structural adjustment projects. How well are those projects faring? What is the contribution of those projects, like especially the dams that took a lot of financial resources? How are they doing? Have they contributed to employment as we thought? Have they been a life changer? What has been their input as far as generating electricity is concerned? We know that we still have power cuts. Those are indicators that will tell you whether we are faring well. You also talk about the lifestyle of government, which is something that every Cameroonian sees. The day I'll get really frightened will be the day I'll see that that has really been dropped, because the head of state had talked about it. We don't have the impression from the look of things that allowances and other benefits, especially to the ruling class, has really dwindled, especially now that we are talking about COVID, a pandemic that has once again sent us to the world market to look for loans. So those are all indications. If we are sure to have electricity at the barber shop without any cuts, that we are sure that he is going to go, lots of Cameroonians live via subsistence. So those are all quite some
and you are sure that you have your salary.
Indications, you know, for those of us who are of the public administration and parastatals, it is indispensable. Lots of us live, first of all, from our salaries, you know. So those are all indicators that will tell you whether the economy is faring well or not.
Doctor, when the part of the Central Treasury caught fire here in Yaoundé, I must tell you, I have colleagues who shouted, my salary, our salaries. So that is the first thing that came to their minds. To be very frank with you, this is a real story. Now, because most of the time they are politicians of the other side of the opposition who give the impression that the government is not doing anything and that it's going to collapse. Why do some politicians give such impression? Because up to today, it has not come out true.
One thing you must understand, that the role of a political party is for checks and balances. Exactly. So if you want an opposition party to remain in the room only come out during election, therefore they should cease to exist. Because even where there is no fire, they should put fire to put the government firm. If I don't want to trace the historiography of what opposition parties have done in Cameroon from the 90s, because it has really gone a long way to help fight against corruption, to democratization, and others. When the Treasury caught fire, I called a friend who worked there. But does it mean that many people will go without salary? The person, no. The central server is conserved. It has all the information. And then I have to now announce to my friend. It's true that it is a very controversial issue, because while some are looking at the economy at a boom, others are looking at a slump. But it's good because they all help us. But it took some of us aback to learn that Cameroon, just like many other countries greatly affected by this COVID spree, will stand to announce that they are economically comfortable. As somebody said, it may just be a way to calm down, to quench some of our anxieties, because the U.S. is affected. It's true that the variables and the indicators used for comparison are not the same. But we were expecting that the fact that the tomato market has been affected, the fact that the petroleum sector has been affected, that even the government has launched an international tender for the supply of petroleum products, we thought that we will come one day that we experience. But we want to thank. Is it because of hard work or is it because of luck? To me, I think that's both. Luck on our side and hard work on the other side, because those in charge of finances in the country are not people we know today in the domain of finance. We know at least the Minister of Finance is.
We stay with you. Abed said a while ago that Cameroon has gone out to get more loans. I think, is it not normal that in a state like in every business, you get loans, you turn over, you pay?
Yes, of course, but it is the consumption is not sweeter than when you produce the money yourself. Because imagine that you go and take a loan and come and buy Tantoa Espoir and you are drinking. The taste you have will not be the same taste like you work the money yourself. Or you tap the palm wine yourself. Or you tap the palm wine yourself.
I prefer palm wine. I don't know why you choose that brand. No publicity on this.
Sorry, thank you.
Now, you've made that point where we're going to move to.
Okay.
What you produce yourself. Let's look at some of the things that the government has done as hard work. We know Tollgate came up, was an idea of somebody. We have treasury bonds came up, We have some others. What are some of these ideas that have actually made government to work and survive during very difficult moments?
It is no more news that Cameroon has been plunged in the war of two fronts, in the north and in the NW and SW, which has caused a lot to our economy. But with the coming of the COVID, thank God at one moment we say any negative events also comes along with some positivity with it, because with the coming of the COVID, Cameroon has also had a lot of donations from friendly countries, individuals who have helped the country in one way or another. And in domains that the government was not exploiting, they tended to exploit this domain in order that there should never be a shortage.
That's where the question is, which are these domains? Right?
Well, just to say that the amount of donations we receive by far smaller than what we are spending and what we shall spend. I'm saying this because a cross-section of our population still believes that COVID-19 is a hoax and that it was done by government to get international financial support, which is not the case.
Not at all.
But I also think that taking especially COVID-19 as an example, I want to commend the aspect of choices made by government at every level in the evolution of the pandemic. From America to Europe to many African countries, governments have had to come back to major decisions and declarations they made. Take the US, take Brazil, and so on and so forth, where heads of states even discouraged the wearing of masks and so on and so forth. I think that we made quite some giant strides in both medically and politically to warn when the situation was very critical. Like nobody expected, stop the schools. When we felt that the situation wasn't good, we weren't having the mastery in the management of the pandemic, set the schools back rolling when we were a little bit sure. So, but besides that, Kilian, just to say that where the luck comes in is that Cameroon was blessed. Cameroon is blessed, and I think Cameroon will forever be blessed because unlike other countries, we can diversify our economy. So when one aspect is, for instance, in the world market is not good enough, we are sure that there is something else that will be good for
that example is good because when the prices of petroleum products dropped, we thought it was going to be so bad. Cameroon has diversified. We're also talking about generating income, that is hard work. We talked about luck and some of the aspects of hard work. I want also to continue with some aspects of hard work, generating money through loans from internal banks. I think you've written about that too.
Yes, we've been doing a lot of writings on that, but like Doctor said, it is sweeter when you consume what you produce. I do not really, I feel very uncomfortable each time we go begging, we go cap in hand to acquire loans, because those loans, they are virtually, we are causing more problems to ourselves, future generation, not only now. Because if you imagine our debt situation, is really alarming.
40%.
Yes, for a country that's struggling to emerge, and we're emerging through loans. And maybe the central government believes that we'll emerge by maybe creating or constructing a referral hospital at the divisional headquarters.
That is still...
No, let me just advance my point. Okay. The issue is, I think that if government really wants us to get to the level, the enviable level within the sub-region, they need to pay more attention to the private sector. This is really something that has been coming up over the years, but government seems to be giving a blind eye. No economy survives in the world without a vibrant private sector.
Agreed.
And
but
if you look at our report card for doing business by the IMF, it's disastrous. It's a report card you don't want to take home if you are a toddler.
I have not looked at it. I'm still with, I stay with you. I stay with the aspects of borrowing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with loans. Are you investing where those loans
that
will
is the
generate?
point I was trying to generate,
yes.
Because it's not just enough to take a loan. Imagine taking a loan of 75 billion to buy mini computers. How do you intend pay back that loan. It doesn't generate anything.
Yes, Elias, I thought you were going to talk about, elaborate on the fact that Cameroon has been able, as an aspect of hard work, to generate loans from the citizens through banks, that 5-year, 10-year, and you go and you get.
Yes, no, a country like Cameroon cannot content itself with surviving via peanuts when they have the potential. They have the potential to emerge. You know, Killian, you wouldn't tell me that you will sleep soundly when you rely on loans to feed your family. We take a micro example. It will give you sleepless nights. Now, IMF report of 2019 says our loan rate distress has gone above 40% of the GDP in 2019, compared to what we had in 2007, a meager 12%. This is really disturbing. It's not a very healthy economic situation as such.
Okay, we get that, but we are saying that that has happened, that has been said before, but Cameroon survives. To be very frank with you, that's the conclusion.
Make the structural projects fruitful, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. We have, you must have seen Elvis Teke going around here. He just stepped in with reactions from some of you who have been writing to us as we watch the program live. Good day, welcome Elvis.
Good day, Killian.
So what are the reactions we had so far?
There are quite a good number of those taking a few because of time constraints. We'll go straight away with Cho Waters, I hear, who says traditional rulers, according to the 1997 law, are auxiliaries of the administration, and therefore must be an asset because they contribute to local development and they collaborate with the administrators in matters of insecurity, local governance, and social amenities for their population. Hence, they are an asset. While Prince Meta Pene says traditional rulers are becoming more of a liability as far as he is concerned. Su Blestia says militating of traditional rulers in politics has turned to liability than an asset. They are considered as auxiliaries of the administration, but we have seen situations where SGOs lord over them, and again, these traditional rulers are not elected but chosen according to traditional norms, and again, the different political views, and worst of all, from different lines of militants. The question to put is the ability to pass valid judgment on issues of traditional character. And Mary Kilachin says traditional rulers should be an asset, but for her, turning to politics, it's a sort of disability as corruption finally will be imposed on them. And Kwa Jacob says in the past, the position of traditional ruler was incompatible with partisan politics. And we'll conclude with Fabian Usei, who says he thinks there's a need to look at the form of the form and the perspective of traditional rulers being being in politics as okay, but what matters the most is the integrity of the traditional leader.
Thank you very much, Elvis Teke. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I want to thank you, gentlemen, the four of you on the panel, for coming and for your discussions.
It's a pleasure.
Yes,
thank you so much.
It is with that we're going to end today's edition of Press Hour. But if you caught us halfway into the program, you can watch a rebroadcast of the program on Monday by 3 p.m. You can even immediately after the program watch it on CRTV Web Facebook at any time you want to watch the program. CRTV Web Facebook. With that we end today's edition of the program. I want to thank you immensely for your time. Have a good day.